Welcome to Short Takes on Strategy. Today, we're diving into Chapter 6 of Ketchen and Short's Mastering Strategic Management, the fourth edition.
Right. And our goal here is really to get under the skin of the competitive and cooperative moves companies make. Go beyond just the terms.
Exactly. What behind it all? This chapter maps out how companies fight and sometimes work together in the marketplace.
It really does. It's fundamental stuff for anyone thinking about strategy.
So let's kick things off with the opening example. Merck and Company. Fascinating history there. Founded, get this, 1668.
Wow. Yeah, that's some serious legacy. Almost hard to fathom.
And they grew into this pharmaceutical giant, through drug development, big acquisitions like Schering-Plough back in 2009.
A real powerhouse.
Yeah.
But, as the chapter highlights, even they aren't immune to challenges. They've hit bumps with R&D, some failed drug trials, and found the COVID-19 treatment landscape tricky.
Right. It just shows, doesn't it? No matter how long you've been around, the pressure is always on. Their Fortune 500 rank, 69th in 2024, puts them behind Pfizer and J&J.
Which tells you the competitive landscape is just relentless. So yeah, this chapter covers the moves, the responses, the cooperation, all crucial for companies like Merck.
Okay, let's get into the first big area then, competitive moves. The chapter starts with the first mover idea and this thing called first mover advantage. What's the real story there? Is it always good to be first?
Well, it's definitely appealing, isn't it? The idea of getting in there first, maybe establishing dominance before anyone else really gets going.
Yeah, like Apple with early personal computers. They sort of defined the space for a while.
Exactly. Or building a reputation for being innovative. And sometimes you forge really strong bonds, like KFC being the first big Western chain in China. That created loyalty.
Okay.
And sometimes first movers can lock up resources or distribution channels, making it harder for others. Think Genentech in the early biotech days. They created barriers.
Those are definitely strong arguments for jumping in first. But the chapter also flags some pretty big risks, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Huge risks. Remember Apple's Newton? Way ahead of its time, maybe.
Yeah.
But customers just didn't bite. Uncertain adoption is a killer.
Right.
And even if your idea is great, how easy is it for someone else, maybe someone bigger with deeper pockets, to just copy it?
That happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Plus, just the sheer resources needed, R&D, marketing, production setup. The chapter mentions RCA and Westinghouse with LCD tech. They were early, but
Didn't have the staying power or maybe the commitment.
something like that. They couldn't sustain the investment and lost out eventually. So, yeah, the evidence on whether being first always pays off is pretty mixed.
There was that study mentioned, right? Finding maybe a decade of advantage.
Around that, yeah. Which is significant, but it's not permanent. It suggests the advantage erodes over time.
So what makes the difference? Why do some first movers succeed long-term while others fade?
It often comes down to, well, strategic resources. Things that are valuable, rare, hard to imitate. You know, the drill.
Like patents. Pfizer and Viagra is the classic case, right? That patent gave them real protection.
Exactly. A tangible barrier.
Yeah.
Compare that to something like E-Trade's idea for a portable mortgage. Good idea, maybe, but
Nothing really stopping the big banks from doing the same thing if it took off.
precisely. No unique defensible resource there.
And now the chapter touches on AI. How does that fit into the first mover decision?
Well, it's becoming a tool, right? AI can crunch huge amounts of data on competitors, simulate market reactions, run cost-benefit analyses. It adds a layer of data-driven insight to what used to be more gut feeling.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Disruptive innovation. This isn't just being first, it's changing the whole game, right?
Totally. It conflicts with and often just replaces the old way of doing things. Think smartphones. They didn't just make calls better, they killed the market for things like flip video cameras.
Oh man, flip cameras, they were huge for like 5 minutes.
Exactly. Rose and fell so fast. Smartphones disrupted that, disrupted how we find information.
Yeah.
You can Google.
Right.
Even disrupted industries like taxis with Uber.
Yeah, Uber is a constant case study, isn't it? And the iPad definitely shook up the laptop market.
But this chapter makes a good point.
Yeah.
Most disruptions don't happen overnight. Digital cameras took a while to really displace film, remember?
True. It takes time for the tech to mature, for prices to come down, for people to adapt.
Patience is key. And the chapter gives a great example of disruption with Southern New Hampshire University, SNHU.
Ah, yes, in higher education. Their story is pretty amazing.
It really is. They were facing, falling enrollment, the usual pressures, and they made this big bet on high quality but inexpensive online education.
And it worked massively. Their enrollment just exploded.
Right. using innovative strategies like lower tuition, really data-driven student support, relying more on adjunct faculty.
Yeah.
It really challenged the traditional university model.
And you see the impact, right? The chapter notes the increasing number of traditional colleges closing since 2020. SNHU's model is clearly putting pressure on them.
Definitely a disruptor.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about footholds. I like this idea. It's like dipping your toe in the water.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Taking a small position in a market you're not really competing in yet. The military analogy in the chapter is good too, securing a small beachhead.
Right. Allows you to learn, see how things work without this huge commitment up front.
Exactly. Limits risk. And it might not provoke a massive reaction from the big players right away.
IKEA does this, right? Entering a new country with just one big store initially.
Perfect example. Build the brand, understand the local tastes, then maybe expand.
And Merck, going back to them, taking stakes in companies like Beijing or buying biocontrol, those feel like footholds in new areas.
They absolutely can be seen that way.
Right?
Or think about Pret a Manger focusing just on a few big U.S. cities at first.
Yeah, New York, Chicago, build a base there. Although the chapter mentions they hit trouble during the pandemic, had to close quite a few.
True. Even a foothold isn't totally secure from, major external shocks. They seem to be recovering now, but it's a reminder.
And again, AI pops up here, helping analyze markets for potential footholds, figuring out resources.
Makes sense. That research roundup piece on the computer industry footholds was interesting too.
Yeah, what did that find again?
Well, many footholds just stay small, some even get shut down, but others do become launch pads for much bigger things, so it's a strategic option with potential.
Okay, next up, blue ocean strategy. Creating a whole new market, making competition irrelevant. Sounds ambitious.
It is ambitious. The chapter quotes Sun Tzu, "It is best to win without fighting." That's the spirit. Or that baseball player, Wee Willie Keeler, hit them where they ain't.
Ah, I like that one. So instead of fighting in the crowded red ocean full of sharks,
You find or create a blue ocean, clear, open water, no predators.
Nintendo seems like the poster child for this. Nintendogs, Animal Crossing, Brain Games, the Wii, the Switch. They kept finding new audiences, people who weren't traditional gamers.
Absolutely. They didn't just try to make faster consoles with better graphics to compete directly with Sony or Microsoft all the time. They created new ways to play, new markets.
And FedEx basically inventing overnight shipping. Or eBay with online options.
Right. Or even that example of One Flew South, the upscale restaurant in Atlanta's airport. A unique niche where you wouldn't expect it.
Creating value where it didn't exist before. And AI, again, potentially helping spot these opportunities by looking at trends, patents.
Yeah, simulating possibilities.
Yeah.
It's all about finding those unmet needs or creating entirely new propositions.
Okay, last concept before we... Oh, hang on a sec.
So,
I was looking out the window. The UPS driver who was just here, he tripped coming down the steps. Went down pretty hard. He's not getting up.
oh my goodness. Seriously. Is he okay?
I don't know. He looks hurt. We should probably maybe pause for a moment. Someone should check on him.
Yes, absolutely. Please. Let's just hold on. Safety first.
Okay. Short implied pause. All right, looks like, okay, yeah, someone's out there with him now. Looks like they're calling dispatch, too. Phew. Okay, that was, bit of a shock.
Glad someone's helping. Hope he's all right.
Me too. Okay. Deep breath. Where were we? Ah, right, we were just about to talk about bricolage after Blue Ocean.
Right. Bricolage. Using whatever's at hand, essentially.
Yeah, creatively combining available resources. The printing press example is great. Gutenberg didn't invent the press or movable type or ink or paper.
He just put them together in a revolutionary new way. That's bricolage.
And you see it in business. Monster mini golf plus haunted house plus Kiss.
Ah. Yeah, definitely a combination. Or that metal band Teresa's using Viking themes.
Or Cannon Beach Hardware, the hardware store that's also a restaurant and tap room, inspired by something they saw in Ireland, apparently.
That's brilliant.
Oh.
Or the Wash House Laundromat meets gourmet sandwiches and coffee.
Though not all combinations work, right? The chapter mentions Urban Outfitters trying to combine with Pizzeria Vetri. That didn't quite fly.
No, sometimes the pieces just don't fit or the market isn't there. And the chapter even uses the Fire Festival disaster as a strategy at the movies case.
Oh, yeah.
A total failure of strategy, both competitive and cooperative, despite using existing things like social media hype.
Right. This whole discussion, blue oceans and then bricolage, it makes me wonder.
Oh, what are you thinking?
Is a truly blue ocean strategy actually possible? Like something completely new? Or is every single new idea just a form of bricolage, just recombining stuff that already exists in a clever way?
That's a really good question. It gets to the heart of innovation, doesn't it? I mean, you could argue Cirque du Soleil was a blue ocean. They blended circus and theater, created a whole new market, didn't compete directly with Ringling Bros.
Okay, but they use circus performers, they use theatrical staging and narratives. Those things existed, they just combine them differently, right? Isn't that just really high-level bricolage? They didn't invent acting or acrobatics?
But the result, the value proposition, was entirely new. It appealed to a different audience, commanded different prices. It wasn't just a better circus. It was a different category of entertainment.
Yeah.
That feels like more than just recombination.
What about the Nintendo Wii then? Blue Ocean, right? It brought in casual gamers, families.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But motion controls existed? Gaming existed. They put existing tech together with existing entertainment in a new package. That sounds like bricolage again? A brilliant combination, yes, but still a combination.
You're focusing too much on the ingredients. It's the final dish. The uncontested market space they created is the blue ocean. The fact that they generated new demand for people who weren't playing video games before, that's the key.
But the building blocks were already there. FedEx planes existed, package delivery existed, eBay auctions existed, the internet existed. It's always a novel combination of pre-existing elements. You can't make a business from nothing.
Slightly raised voice. Of course, you build on some things. Nobody invents in a total vacuum. But the strategic leap to create a space where there are no direct competitors is what defines it. It's about making the competition irrelevant, not just rearranging deck chairs.
But that irrelevant competition is only irrelevant because you found a new angle using old tools. It's fundamentally derivative. It has to be. You're just dressing up recombination and calling it creation.
Getting frustrated. That's completely missing the point. It's about the paradigm shift. It's about creating new value curves, breaking the existing trade-offs. Bricolage might be part of how you get there sometimes, but the goal and the outcome of a blue ocean are fundamentally different.
I just don't buy it. Show me one example, one true blue ocean that didn't rely fundamentally on combining or adapting things that already existed. It's all just clever bricolage at scale.
It's exasperated. You're being deliberately obtuse. The transformative impact and the creation of new demand are what matter.
Yeah.
It's about escaping the red ocean. Whether every single molecule was created from scratch is irrelevant semantic nonsense.
It's not semantics, it's fundamental. If everything is built on existing blocks, then the real skill is bricolage, not some mythical blue ocean creation. You're chasing a fantasy.
Sighs loudly.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, maybe the line isn't always perfectly sharp. Maybe pure blue ocean is rare or debatable.
Yeah.
But the principle of seeking uncontested space, of innovating value, of not just competing head-to-head, that strategy is powerful and distinct, whatever label you insist on putting on the building blocks.
Taking a breath. All right, fine. Maybe we're arguing degrees here. But I still think the bricolage perspective is closer to the reality of how most new things actually come about.
And I maintain that the strategic intent and market outcome of aiming for a blue ocean represent a distinct and valuable approach. We'll have to agree to disagree in the philosophical purity.
Calmer now. Okay, well, that was a more heated discussion than I anticipated, but hopefully useful. It does highlight the different ways to think about these strategies.
Indeed. So, pulling back, we've covered quite a bit from Chapter 6. First mover advantage, the potential upsides, the very real downsides.
Right. Then disruptive innovation, companies like SNHU really shaking things up.
We looked at footholds, that strategy of cautious entry, testing the waters.
Then blue ocean strategy, aiming for those uncontested markets, which led to our spirited debate just now.
Small chuckle.
Yes.
And finally, bricolage, that creative use of whatever resources are available.
So you, listening to this, can see there's a whole toolkit of competitive moves companies might use. It's not just one size fits all.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So the question for you is, as you look around at industries you know, which of these strategies do you see playing out? Can you spot the first movers, the disruptors, the companies using footholds, or maybe trying for a blue ocean?
And maybe think about our debate. Is true innovation really about creating something utterly new from whole cloth? Or is it more about the genius of seeing how existing pieces, technologies, ideas, resources can be combined in novel ways to create unexpected value? Where do you fall on that? Something to ponder.